The Warhammer 40,000 universe is a realm of ceaseless conflict, where every breath is a struggle for survival, and every moment carries the weight of history's bloodiest battles. Among the countless forces vying for dominance, some names are spoken in whispers, names that evoke dread and awe in equal measure. One such name is the World Eaters, a legion whose existence is a testament to unrelenting fury and the dark allure of chaos. To understand their legacy is to confront the brutal truth of what it means to lose oneself entirely to violence and the worship of destruction. The galaxy teeters on the brink of annihilation, an endless war where gods and mortals alike vie for supremacy. Within this tapestry of carnage, the World Eaters stand apart, not as conquerors or defenders, but as instruments of unbridled slaughter. They are the chosen of Khorne, the blood god, whose essence thrives on the shedding of blood and the offering of skulls. For them, war is not a means to an end, but the ultimate expression of existence. The origins of the World Eaters are rooted in the early days of the Imperium of Man, during an era of unity and expansion under the Emperor's banner. Yet their story is not one of noble conquest, but of a tragic descent into madness. Once celebrated for their martial prowess and indomitable spirit, they became something far darker, a force consumed by their own bloodlust, twisted by the forces of chaos into a living nightmare. As the galaxy burned and the legions of the Great Crusade marched across the stars, the World Eaters left their mark in rivers of blood and mountains of corpses. Their transformation was neither swift nor painless, and their path from warriors to berserkers is a cautionary tale of ambition, betrayal, and the corrupting influence of unchecked power. In the present age, the World Eaters are no longer bound by allegiance or loyalty, save to the will of Khorne. Scattered across the stars, they are a plague upon the galaxy, a force of unending rage that cannot be reasoned with or subdued. Their presence is an omen of death, their arrival heralded by the roar of chain axes and the screams of the dying. Wherever they go, they leave only destruction in their wake, a testament to their singular devotion to the art of war. But to truly grasp the essence of the World Eaters, one must look beyond their carnage and into the heart of what drives them. What compels these warriors to surrender their humanity so completely? How did a legion of the Emperor's finest fall so far from grace? And what dark truths lie at the core of their unholy pact with the Blood God? These are the questions that linger as we delve into the story of the World Eaters. To understand them is to confront the darkest aspects of the human soul and the price of surrendering to the promise of power. Their tale is not merely one of bloodshed, but of transformation, where purpose is lost and only fury remains. Prepare yourself to step into the abyss, where the roar of battle drowns out all else, and the only law is that of the axe and the chain blade. This is the story of the World Eaters, the unstoppable slaughter in the name of Khorne. The central figures tied to the World Eaters are defined by their brutal nature and their relentless pursuit of combat. At the heart of their identity lies a singular devotion to war, not as a means to an end, but as an all-consuming purpose. Those who follow this path are characterized by their physical might, unyielding ferocity, and an unwavering focus on delivering death to their foes. Their role in shaping the events tied to their existence is defined not by diplomacy or strategy, but by raw, unrestrained aggression. The warriors of the World Eaters are known for their unparalleled skill in close combat. They wield devastating weapons with precision and savagery, their favored tools being those that can cleave through flesh and bone with terrifying efficiency. Chain axes, chain blades, and other instruments of destruction are their companions in battle, and they take a grim satisfaction in the sound of these tools tearing through their enemies. Their combat style is not one of calculated strikes or finesse, but of overwhelming their adversaries with sheer power and unrelenting fury. These warriors are bound together by their shared allegiance to the blood god Khorne. Their faith in this dark entity is absolute, driving their actions and shaping their very existence. Khorne demands blood and skulls as offerings, and his followers are more than willing to comply. The World Eaters see themselves as his instruments, channeling his wrath and enacting his will on the battlefield. This allegiance is not born of fear or obligation, but of a profound alignment with the primal forces of violence and destruction. Beyond the warriors themselves, there are other significant entities associated with the World Eaters. These figures act as symbols of their ideology, embodying the principles of bloodshed and dominance. They inspire their kin, urging them toward greater acts of violence and destruction. Their presence on the battlefield is a rallying point for the Legion, driving their comrades into even greater frenzies of rage. The World Eaters are not only defined by their combat prowess, but also by the physical and mental transformations they undergo. Their bodies are altered in ways that enhance their capacity for violence, making them stronger, faster, and more resilient. These changes are not without cost, however, as they strip away remnants of restraint or reason. What remains is a being wholly consumed by rage, incapable of anything beyond the pursuit of bloodshed. While the warriors dominate the narrative of the World Eaters, there are also those who support their cause through other means. Whether it is maintaining their weapons, tending to their wounds, or spreading the ideology of Khorne, these individuals play an integral role in ensuring the Legion's continued dominance. Their contributions may not be as visible on the battlefield, but they are no less critical to the World Eaters' enduring presence in the galaxy. The World Eaters also interact with other forces in ways that reinforce their identity. Allies are rare and temporary, as few can tolerate the sheer destructiveness they bring, even to their supposed friends. Enemies, on the other hand, are plentiful, as the World Eaters seek conflict wherever it may be found. Their reputation ensures that those who face them do so with trepidation, knowing the ferocity they are about to encounter. In their ranks are individuals who stand out even among their brutal kin. These figures, often marked by their exceptional skill or unique characteristics, serve as exemplars of the World Eaters' ideology. They are the embodiment of the Legion's values, inspiring fear in their enemies and loyalty among their comrades. Their actions resonate far beyond the battlefield, cementing their place in the stories told about the World Eaters. The role of the World Eaters in the galaxy is one of destruction and chaos, but this is not a narrative of mindless violence. Every member of the Legion contributes to this identity, their actions reflecting a shared belief in the supremacy of war. Whether through their prowess in battle, their unwavering faith in Khorne, or their transformation into beings of pure rage, they represent the ultimate expression of what it means to live and die for the thrill of combat. The origins of the World Eaters are rooted in an era when humanity was expanding across the stars, uniting disparate worlds under a singular vision of order and unity. This period, known as the Great Crusade, was marked by the relentless drive to reclaim lost human colonies and establish the Imperium as the dominant force in the galaxy. It was during this time that the seeds of the World Eaters' eventual transformation were sown, shaped by both the ideals of this grand campaign and the darker influences that lurked in the shadows of the burgeoning Imperium. The creation of the World Eaters was intended to embody the ideals of martial excellence and unbreakable discipline. From the beginning, their role was to be the vanguard of humanity's efforts to subjugate rebellious worlds and crush any resistance with unrelenting force. Their purpose was not merely conquest, but annihilation of any threat to humanity's unity. They were envisioned as warriors who would achieve victory through precise and overwhelming violence, breaking the will of any who dared oppose the Emperor's vision. However, the very qualities that made them effective conquerors also carried the potential for ruin. Their reliance on sheer aggression and their tolerance for extreme measures fostered a culture where violence became more than a tool. It became a defining characteristic. Over time, this unyielding focus on domination through bloodshed began to erode the values that had once tempered their brutality, leaving behind an ethos rooted entirely in destruction. The earliest indications of the Legion's darker path emerged as the Great Crusade progressed. On the battlefields of countless worlds, the tactics employed by these warriors grew increasingly savage. Where once they sought to enforce the Emperor's will with precision, they began to revel in the act of slaughter itself. This shift was gradual but undeniable, a slow descent fueled by an insatiable hunger for blood and the psychological toll of endless war. The transformation of the World Eaters was further accelerated by advancements in technology designed to enhance their combat effectiveness. These enhancements, while successful in creating more efficient killers, also stripped away elements of restraint and humanity. The modifications imposed on them drove the warriors to even greater extremes, amplifying their capacity for violence and deepening their descent into madness. What was once a calculated application of force became a frenzied thirst for destruction, impossible to control or contain. The first major turning points in the story of the World Eaters were marked by their growing divergence from the principles that had originally guided their creation. Reports from campaigns waged during the later stages of the Great Crusade described their actions as increasingly indiscriminate, their thirst for blood outweighing any sense of strategy or restraint. Worlds were reduced to smoldering ruins, not out of necessity, but as an outlet for their ever-escalating rage. Their reputation began to precede them, with accounts of their campaigns spreading fear among both enemies and allies. This notoriety was not without consequence, as other factions within the Imperium began to question the methods and motives of the World Eaters. Despite these doubts, their effectiveness on the battlefield ensured their continued deployment, as their unyielding ferocity was seen as a necessary tool in the Imperium's relentless march toward domination. The origins of their allegiance to Khorne, the Blood God, can be traced back to the same forces that shaped their descent into madness. As their thirst for bloodshed grew insatiable, they became increasingly susceptible to the whispers of chaos, offering them power in exchange for their loyalty. This dark pact, though not fully realized at first, began to manifest in subtle but unmistakable ways, further driving the Legion toward its eventual fate. The rise of the World Eaters as an entity wholly devoted to bloodshed and destruction was not the result of a single event, but the culmination of countless moments of compromise, ambition, and unchecked aggression. Their transformation from disciplined warriors to agents of chaos was a process that unfolded over decades, shaped by the very forces they were created to conquer. By the time their allegiance to Khorne was fully revealed, the World Eaters were no longer the Legion they had once been. Instead, they had become a force of unrelenting slaughter, bound to a path from which there was no return. Their appearance on the Galactic stage marked a turning point in the history of the Imperium, a reminder of the thin line between order and chaos. The events that led to their rise were not isolated incidents, but the result of systemic flaws within the structure of the Imperium itself, coupled with the inherent dangers of wielding such destructive power. The World Eater's story is one of ambition turned to hubris, discipline lost to madness, and a vision of unity shattered by the lure of unrestrained violence. The history of the World Eaters is a relentless timeline of war, destruction, and descent into chaos, marked by one bloody campaign after another. Their existence has been defined by a singular purpose: to wage war without end, driven by an insatiable desire to shed blood and bring devastation to all who stand before them. This brutal history spans thousands of years, with each chapter more violent and ruthless than the last. During the early stages of their formation, the World Eaters were one of the many legions deployed during the Great Crusade, tasked with uniting the scattered human colonies under the Imperium of Man. In those times, their role was clear: to crush resistance wherever it was found and ensure that rebellious worlds submitted to the Emperor's will. Their campaigns were marked by swift and decisive victories, their tactics relying on the overwhelming force of close-quarters combat to break enemy lines and morale. World after world fell before their relentless assault, leaving behind nothing but submission and ruins. As the Great Crusade continued, reports of their excessive brutality began to mount. While they had been created to embody martial prowess, their methods grew increasingly ruthless and less concerned with the Imperium's wider strategic goals. Despite these early warning signs, the World Eaters were celebrated as one of the Imperium's most effective legions, and their warriors took pride in the ferocity they unleashed upon their enemies. The events of the Horus Heresy marked a significant turning point in their history, though the full details of their actions during this time will be explored later. It is enough to say that this period solidified their break from the ideals of the Imperium and cemented their role as harbingers of slaughter. The civil war that tore through the galaxy saw the World Eaters engage in countless battles, each more destructive than the last, as they embraced the forces of chaos and the path of unrestrained violence. Following the Horus Heresy, the World Eaters fragmented, scattering across the galaxy in countless warbands. No longer bound by a unified command structure, these warbands roamed the stars in search of battle and bloodshed, waging war wherever they could find it. Their only allegiance was to Khorne, and they fought for no cause other than the pursuit of violence. This period saw them become a plague upon the galaxy, launching raids, destroying planets, and clashing with both the Imperium and other forces of chaos. Throughout the long centuries of the Age of Darkness, the World Eaters earned a reputation as one of the deadliest and most unpredictable threats in the galaxy. Their warbands struck without warning, massacring entire populations and reducing worlds to desolate wastelands. Even among other followers of chaos, they were feared and respected for their singular focus on slaughter and their complete disregard for diplomacy or alliances. Despite their fragmented nature, the World Eaters occasionally came together for larger campaigns, often in service of Khorne's will. These gatherings were marked by unprecedented levels of carnage, as the warbands united under a single cause only to unleash even greater destruction. Entire sectors were plunged into chaos as the combined fury of the World Eaters swept across the stars, leaving nothing but death and ruin in their wake. In more recent times, the World Eaters continue to operate as scattered warbands, each driven by the same relentless hunger for battle. They clash with the Imperium, other chaos forces, and Xenos alike, with no discernible pattern beyond their desire for combat. Every warband has its own unique identity, shaped by the battles they have fought and the leaders who command them, but all share the same devotion to the Blood God and the same insatiable thirst for bloodshed. There are countless stories of their atrocities, from the massacres of planetary populations to the brutal destruction of entire fleets. Their warbands have raided worlds deep within Imperial space, striking with such ferocity that entire sectors are plunged into fear and disorder. They have fought in some of the largest and bloodiest conflicts in the galaxy, their presence always marked by rivers of blood and mountains of skulls. The World Eaters remain a symbol of chaos and destruction, a force that cannot be reasoned with or subdued. Their timeline is one of endless battle, marked by no great victories or conquests, but by the sheer scale of the devastation they leave behind. For them, there is no goal beyond the act of killing, no higher purpose than to honor Khorne through the spilling of blood. Their history is a long and brutal chronicle of war, one that stretches from the earliest days of the Great Crusade to the present era of unending conflict. It is a story of warriors who surrendered everything, honor, purpose, and humanity, for the promise of unrestrained violence. Yet despite the countless battles they have fought and the countless lives they have claimed, the World Eaters show no signs of slowing in their relentless quest for bloodshed. For them, war is eternal, and the galaxy is their endless battleground. Among the many moments of bloodshed and destruction that define the history of the World Eaters, one event stands out as the pivotal moment that sealed their fate and bound them irrevocably to Khorne. It was not simply a campaign or a battle, but a transformation that reshaped their identity and purpose forever. This turning point was the moment they abandoned any pretense of restraint, discipline, or allegiance to anything other than the Blood God, fully embracing the path of chaos and bloodshed. The event unfolded during a time when the World Eaters were already teetering on the edge of madness. Years of brutal warfare had worn away their discipline, leaving a legion consumed by its own fury. This growing instability made them vulnerable to external forces seeking to exploit their relentless aggression. The whispers of chaos had long been present, but it was the influence of Khorne that found the most fertile ground within the hearts of these warriors. The blood god's essence resonated with their hunger for violence, offering power and purpose in exchange for devotion. The decisive moment came during a campaign of unparalleled savagery, a conflict that began as a standard military operation, but quickly spiraled into an orgy of violence. As the battle dragged on, the World Eaters found themselves increasingly consumed by their bloodlust. Their tactics became ever more brutal, their focus shifting from achieving victory to the sheer thrill of slaughter. The battlefield became a crimson mire, a place where reason and strategy gave way to unrestrained carnage. It was in this crucible of violence that the Legion collectively crossed a line from which there was no return. The transformation was not merely a philosophical or ideological shift, it was deeply physical and spiritual. At the height of the conflict, a dark ritual was enacted, whether through the deliberate actions of the Legion's leadership or the manifestation of Khorne's will remains unclear. This ritual marked the final step in their descent, binding their souls to the blood god and cementing their role as his chosen instruments of war. The exact details of the ritual remain shrouded in mystery, but its effects were immediate and undeniable. The World Eaters emerged from the carnage as something entirely new, no longer soldiers of the Imperium, but the living embodiment of Khorne's wrath. The aftermath of this event was catastrophic. The bond forged with Khorne came at a cost, stripping away any remaining traces of humanity within the Legion. The warriors were no longer capable of functioning as a cohesive military force. Instead, they became berserkers driven solely by the need to kill. Their minds were consumed by the constant whisper of Khorne's voice, urging them to shed blood and claim skulls in his name. This transformation was marked by the physical changes that overtook many of the warriors, their bodies becoming grotesque reflections of their inner rage and their weapons imbued with the unholy power of chaos. The significance of this event cannot be overstated. It was the moment when the World Eaters ceased to be a legion of the Emperor and became a force entirely dedicated to Khorne. This shift had far-reaching consequences, not only for the Legion itself, but for the galaxy as a whole. The World Eaters' actions from that point onward were no longer driven by any strategic objective or larger goal. Instead, their campaigns became expressions of pure destruction, each battle an offering to the blood god. This pivotal event also marked the beginning of the World Eaters' fragmentation. With their transformation complete, the bonds that had once united them as a legion dissolved. Individual war bands formed, each led by those who sought to prove their worth to Khorne through acts of unparalleled brutality. The Legion's unity was replaced by a chaotic swarm of warriors, each pursuing their own path of bloodshed, but all bound by their shared devotion to the blood god. In the aftermath, the galaxy bore witness to the full extent of Khorne's influence. The World Eaters became a plague upon the stars, their presence heralding destruction and despair. Entire worlds were obliterated, not for conquest or resources, but simply to satisfy their insatiable thirst for blood. The name of the World Eaters became synonymous with terror, a reminder of the price of succumbing to the darker forces of the universe. This turning point in their history is not merely a tale of corruption or fall from grace. It is a story of transformation, where a legion of warriors abandoned everything they once stood for to embrace a new purpose as the chosen instruments of Khorne. The event stands as a stark reminder of the power of chaos to corrupt and consume, leaving nothing but ruin in its wake. For the World Eaters, it was the moment that defined their identity and set them on a path of eternal bloodshed, forever tied to the will of the blood god. The impact of the World Eaters on the galaxy is felt as a relentless wave of destruction, leaving devastation in their wake wherever they tread. Their presence has shaped not just the regions they ravage, but also the strategies, priorities, and lives of those who strive to resist them. The unrestrained violence they bring to every engagement has carved a permanent scar on the fabric of the galaxy, influencing the actions of countless factions and sowing fear on an unprecedented scale. Their dedication to Khorne has turned them into agents of chaos in its purest form. Entire systems have been brought to ruin by their brutal campaigns, with planets left uninhabitable due to the sheer scale of the slaughter. Civilian populations are annihilated without mercy, their deaths offered as tributes to the Blood God. Worlds that were once thriving centers of life and culture are reduced to barren wastelands, their histories erased in moments of bloodshed. These acts serve no strategic purpose, but exist solely to satisfy the insatiable demands of Khorne, creating a ripple effect of despair and chaos. The destruction wrought by the World Eaters forces neighboring systems into a perpetual state of readiness. Those aware of their presence live in constant fear, fortifying their defenses and dedicating resources to survival rather than progress. This fear cripples commerce, halts exploration, and isolates planets as trade routes become too dangerous to maintain. The mere possibility of a World Eater's warband arriving is enough to paralyze entire sectors, locking them in a cycle of paranoia and stagnation. Their influence extends beyond physical destruction. The psychological toll they inflict is immense, both on those who witness their atrocities and on those who attempt to combat them. The Berserkers' complete disregard for their own lives, combined with their horrifying brutality, breaks the morale of even the most disciplined forces. Survivors of their attacks are often left traumatized, haunted by the carnage, and unable to return to normal life. The tales they carry spread like wildfire, amplifying the terror associated with the World Eaters and reinforcing their reputation as an unstoppable force of chaos. The military responses to the World Eaters are shaped by their unique methods of warfare. Conventional tactics are often ineffective against their sheer ferocity, forcing commanders to adopt desperate measures. The use of overwhelming firepower, scorched earth policies, and even exterminatus-level actions are common strategies when facing them, as anything less risks total annihilation. These drastic measures leave long-lasting scars on the regions involved, further contributing to the decline of stability and order. For the Imperium, the World Eaters represent a unique and persistent threat. They are not an organized army with clear objectives, but a dispersed and unpredictable scourge. Tracking their movements is nearly impossible, as their warbands appear and vanish without warning. This unpredictability strains the Imperium's already stretched resources, diverting military assets away from other critical fronts to address the chaos caused by the World Eaters. The constant need to respond to their attacks weakens the Imperium's ability to combat other enemies, creating vulnerabilities across the galaxy. Other factions are not immune to the effects of the World Eaters' presence. Even the forces of chaos are impacted by their actions, as the warbands often clash with rival groups in their endless quest for bloodshed. These internal conflicts serve Khorne's will, but create disarray among chaos-aligned factions, disrupting their plans and weakening their ability to present a united front against their enemies. For Xenos species, the World Eaters are a deadly and unpredictable force, striking without warning and leaving devastation in their wake. Their actions disrupt alliances, destabilize regions, and provoke retaliatory measures that further escalate the cycle of violence. The cultural and symbolic consequences of the World Eaters are equally significant. They have become a symbol of unrestrained destruction, their name synonymous with terror and despair. For many, the mere mention of the World Eaters conjures images of endless slaughter and hopeless resistance. This reputation undermines efforts to maintain unity and morale, as even the possibility of their involvement in a conflict can demoralize entire populations and armies. In the broader context of the galaxy, the World Eaters embody the cost of Chaos's influence. They are a living reminder of the dangers posed by unbridled aggression and the allure of dark power. Their actions highlight the fragility of order in the galaxy, showing how quickly even the most fortified systems can fall when faced with unrelenting violence. This realization fuels debates within the Imperium about the best ways to combat chaos, influencing policies, doctrines, and priorities. Despite their fragmented nature, the cumulative impact of the World Eaters is undeniable. They are not a single unified threat, but a persistent and pervasive force of destruction, a scourge that continuously undermines efforts to establish stability and order. Their legacy is written in the ruins they leave behind and the lives they destroy, a testament to the enduring power of chaos and the insatiable hunger of the Blood God. The World Eaters stand apart from other factions in the Warhammer 40,000 universe due to the unique methods and technologies they employ in their endless pursuit of bloodshed. Their reputation is built not only on their unmatched ferocity, but also on the distinctive tools, tactics, and transformations that define their approach to warfare. These aspects are the subject of constant discussion and fascination within the fan community, as they reveal the dark intricacies of what it means to fully devote oneself to Khorne. Central to the identity of the World Eaters is their reliance on the Butcher's Nails, a horrific neural implant that has become synonymous with their descent into madness. These devices are designed to stimulate aggression by suppressing emotions such as fear, empathy, and reason, replacing them with an overwhelming desire for violence. The Butcher's Nails are not merely a tool, but a curse, gradually destroying the minds of those who bear them. The implants create an unending cycle of pain and rage, driving the warriors into a state of perpetual bloodlust. The debate surrounding the extent to which the Butcher's Nails control their actions versus how much of their violence is a conscious choice remains a topic of fascination for fans. The physicality of the World Eaters also sets them apart. Over time, their bodies have been altered and augmented to better serve their violent purpose. Muscle enhancements, combat stimulants, and genetic modifications ensure they are faster, stronger, and more durable than most other warriors. These changes make them devastating in close combat, where their strength and stamina give them an overwhelming advantage. Unlike other factions that rely on strategy, ranged firepower, or specialized tactics, the World Eaters place their faith in their own physical prowess, charging headlong into enemy lines with an unstoppable momentum. Their weapons are equally distinctive, tailored to maximize carnage in close-quarters combat. Chain axes are a hallmark of the World Eaters, their roaring teeth designed to tear through flesh and bone with ease. These weapons are not only effective but symbolic, reflecting their philosophy of total destruction. Unlike the precision of blades or the explosive force of firearms, chain axes embody the raw, visceral nature of the World Eaters' approach to warfare. Other weapons in their arsenal, such as chain glaives and eviscerators, further enhance their ability to wreak havoc on the battlefield, ensuring that every strike leaves a gruesome mark. The tactics of the World Eaters are as straightforward as they are terrifying. They eschew complex strategies or coordinated maneuvers in favor of direct assaults. Their preferred method of attack is the Berserker Charge, a full-force rush into enemy lines using sheer momentum and overwhelming aggression to break their foes. This tactic is both their greatest strength and a point of vulnerability, as it leaves them exposed to disciplined counterattacks or long-range fire. However, their relentless nature and refusal to retreat often compensate for these weaknesses, allowing them to overwhelm even the most prepared defenses. The warbands of the World Eaters are another unique aspect of their existence. With no unified command structure, each warband operates independently, often led by particularly powerful or influential individuals. This fragmentation creates a wide variety of interpretations of what it means to serve Khorne. Some warbands are composed entirely of berserkers, while others maintain a degree of tactical flexibility, incorporating vehicles or demonic support. This diversity within their ranks ensures that no two encounters with the World Eaters are exactly alike, adding an element of unpredictability to their campaigns. Another topic of intrigue is the role of Khorne's blessings in the lives of the World Eaters. Many of their warriors exhibit mutations or gifts bestowed by the Blood God, ranging from enhanced strength to demonic resilience. These blessings often come at a cost, further binding the recipients to Khorne's will and stripping away what little humanity remains. The relationship between the World Eaters and Khorne is symbiotic yet parasitic, as the Blood God gains power from their bloodshed while simultaneously consuming their individuality. The aesthetics of the World Eaters also captivate fans, as their appearance reflects their unyielding devotion to Khorne. Their armor is often adorned with skulls, blood-red paint, and the 8-pointed Star of Chaos. These details are not merely decorative, but deeply symbolic, serving as a constant reminder of their allegiance and purpose. Each warrior's armor tells a story of battles fought and blood spilled, with the scars and trophies they carry serving as a testament to their violent lives. Lastly, the psychology of the World Eaters offers a fascinating window into the effects of unrestrained violence. While their outward appearance is one of rage and savagery, the internal struggles of these warriors are a topic of significant interest. Some are believed to retain fleeting memories of who they once were, creating moments of torment and confusion amid the chaos. This tension between their past and present selves adds a layer of tragedy to their existence, highlighting the cost of their transformation into Khorne's chosen. These unique aspects of the World Eaters contribute to their enduring fascination within the fan community. Their combination of physicality, weaponry, tactics, and psychological complexity creates a rich and layered narrative that continues to inspire discussion and debate. Each element of their existence offers a glimpse into the dark depths of what it means to fully embrace chaos, making them one of the most compelling factions in the Warhammer 40,000 universe. Within the ranks of the World Eaters, a handful of figures stand out as embodiments of their violent ethos, individuals whose deeds and characteristics have left indelible marks on their blood-soaked history. These personalities, revered and feared in equal measure, are more than mere warriors. They are symbols of the unrelenting rage and devastation that define their legion. Their strengths, flaws, and personal journeys provide a deeper understanding of what it means to serve the Blood God. One of the most infamous figures among the World Eaters is known for his unyielding ferocity and almost supernatural resilience. He is a towering figure, both physically and symbolically, who has led countless assaults, inspiring his fellow warriors through sheer example. His combat prowess is unparalleled, wielding massive weapons with the precision of a master and the strength of a demon. Yet beneath this raw power lies a mind consumed by rage, driven not by strategy or tactics, but by an all-encompassing need to destroy. His weakness lies in this blind aggression, as it often leads him to ignore danger or overextend in his pursuit of slaughter, endangering his warband in the process. Another notable individual is a warrior whose skill in close combat is matched only by his cunning. Unlike many of his brethren, he retains a semblance of tactical awareness, using his intellect to outmaneuver opponents and set traps that maximize carnage. His weapon of choice is a massive glaive, which he wields with deadly precision, striking down multiple enemies in a single swing. His strength lies in his ability to adapt to the chaos of battle, finding opportunities to exploit even in the midst of the most chaotic engagements. However, his pride often blinds him to the risks of his own plans, leading to catastrophic consequences when his gambits fail. A figure of particular renown among the World Eaters is one who fully embraces the blessings of Khorne, his body and soul irrevocably altered by the Blood God's influence. This warrior is a living engine of destruction, his body augmented with unnatural strength and resilience. His armor is fused to his flesh, a grotesque blend of metal and muscle that serves as both protection and a constant reminder of his allegiance. His power is immense, allowing him to tear through enemy lines with ease. But his dependence on Khorne's gifts comes at a cost. The further he delves into the favor of the Blood God, the more he loses his identity, becoming little more than a vessel for Khorne's will. Among these figures is also a leader who stands apart for his ability to inspire and command the fragmented warbands of the World Eaters. His voice carries the weight of authority, compelling even the most chaotic berserkers to follow his orders. While many of his brethren act on instinct alone, he has the rare ability to unite them under a single cause, turning their destructive tendencies into a focused weapon. His strength lies in his charisma and his deep understanding of what drives his fellow warriors, but his position is a precarious one. Leading such volatile individuals is a constant struggle, and any sign of weakness or hesitation could result in his downfall. One of the most enigmatic individuals within the World Eaters is a warrior known for his unorthodox approach to warfare. While most of his kin favor direct assaults, he specializes in ambushes and guerrilla tactics, using the terrain and the element of surprise to his advantage. His methods are highly effective, allowing his warband to strike fear into their enemies by attacking when and where they are least expected. However, his deviation from traditional World Eaters' tactics has earned him the suspicion of his peers, who view his methods as a sign of weakness or a lack of devotion to Khorne. This tension often places him at odds with other leaders, forcing him to constantly prove his worth through even greater acts of violence. Finally, there are those whose influence lies not in their physical might, but in their connection to Khorne. These individuals act as conduits for the blood god's power, their very presence inciting bloodlust in those around them. They are often seen as spiritual leaders, guiding their warbands in rituals and acts of devotion that strengthen their bond with Khorne. Their strength lies in their ability to channel the favor of the blood god, turning the tide of battle through sheer force of will. However, their role is not without risks, as their deep connection to Khorne makes them vulnerable to being consumed entirely by his influence, losing their individuality and becoming little more than avatars of rage. These figures, each unique in their strengths and weaknesses, exemplify the diversity within the World Eaters' ranks. They are bound by their shared devotion to Khorne, but differ in how they express that devotion, creating a dynamic and multifaceted narrative that continues to captivate those who study their bloody history. Each of these personalities adds a layer of complexity to the Legion's identity, demonstrating that even within the chaos of the World Eaters, there are individuals whose actions and choices shape their collective fate. The World Eaters are shrouded in mysteries and unresolved questions that continue to spark debate among fans and scholars of the Warhammer 40,000 universe. These uncertainties deepen their lore, offering glimpses into untold stories and uncharted aspects of their existence. Theories abound, fueled by cryptic accounts, fragmented records, and the enigmatic nature of chaos itself. One of the most debated questions revolves around the exact origin and nature of the Butcher's nails. While it is known that these implants were designed to enhance aggression and combat effectiveness, the full details of their creation remain unclear. Some speculate that the technology may have been derived from lost knowledge, possibly originating from ancient Terran experiments. Others theorize that it could have been influenced by chaos from the very beginning, a subtle trap set to corrupt the Legion long before their fall. The true extent of the Butcher's nails' impact on the minds of the warriors also remains an open question. Are the Berserkers entirely at the mercy of the implants, or do fragments of their former selves still exist, trapped beneath the unending rage? Another intriguing mystery involves the long-term consequences of their allegiance to Khorne. The Blood God is known to demand constant offerings of blood and skulls, but what happens if the World Eaters fail to meet his expectations? While their dedication is unmatched, the decentralized nature of their warbands and the unpredictability of their actions make it possible for some to fall short of Khorne's insatiable demands. Theories suggest that such warbands might face retribution, either through the withdrawal of Khorne's blessings or outright annihilation by other forces of chaos. This raises the question of whether there is a limit to Khorne's tolerance and what fate awaits those who are deemed unworthy. The disappearance or destruction of entire warbands is another topic of fascination. While many are accounted for in records of battles and campaigns, others have vanished without explanation. Some believe these warbands may have succumbed to infighting or been destroyed in battles too insignificant to be recorded. Others propose more sinister theories, such as the intervention of rival chaos gods, Xenos forces, or even hidden agents of the Imperium. The fate of these lost warbands remains a tantalizing mystery, leaving open the possibility of their re-emergence in unexpected ways. The role of Khorne's direct intervention in the affairs of the World Eaters is a subject of ongoing speculation. While the Blood God is known to favor acts of extreme violence and conquest, his influence is often described as indirect, manifesting through blessings or curses rather than overt actions. Yet there are accounts that suggest moments of divine intervention, where Khorne's will has directly shaped the outcomes of battles or the fates of his followers. These incidents are difficult to verify, leading to debates about their authenticity and the extent to which Khorne actively guides the World Eaters versus leaving them to their own devices. The question of whether the World Eaters could ever unite under a single banner is another point of contention. Their fragmentation into countless warbands is often seen as an inevitable consequence of their devotion to Khorne, as their insatiable bloodlust drives them to constant conflict, even with each other. However, some theorists argue that a charismatic leader or an extraordinary event could temporarily rally the warbands into a unified force. Such an event could have catastrophic consequences for the galaxy, as the combined might of the World Eaters would be nearly unstoppable. Whether this is a realistic possibility or a mere flight of fancy remains an open question. Another lingering enigma involves the nature of their relationship with other Chaos forces. While they are nominally allied with the other followers of Chaos, the World Eaters' singular focus on bloodshed often puts them at odds with more strategic or scheming factions. This raises questions about how they are perceived by the other Chaos gods and their followers. Do they hold a special status in the eyes of Khorne that grants them immunity from the rivalries of Chaos, or are they simply tolerated as a necessary but volatile component of the larger Chaos war machine? The dynamics of these relationships are complex and poorly understood, leaving much room for speculation. The possibility of redemption or reversal of their condition is a theory that has intrigued some, though it is widely considered unlikely. Could a World Eater, through some extraordinary circumstance, break free from the influence of the Butcher's nails or Khorne's grip? Such a scenario would challenge the very nature of their existence and the power of Chaos itself. While there are no known cases of such an event, the idea persists as a point of philosophical debate, raising questions about the limits of free will and the potential for redemption even in the darkest corners of the galaxy. Finally, the long-term legacy of the World Eaters is a topic that remains unresolved. As their warbands continue to spread destruction across the galaxy, their influence shows no signs of diminishing. Yet the nature of Chaos is inherently self-destructive, and the World Eaters' reliance on unrestrained violence may eventually lead to their own undoing. Whether their story will end in total annihilation, a dramatic transformation, or an unexpected resurgence is a question that continues to captivate those who study their history. These unresolved questions and theories highlight the richness and complexity of the World Eaters' lore. They offer endless possibilities for exploration and debate, ensuring that the fascination with this brutal legion endures. Each mystery adds a layer of depth to their story, inviting fans to speculate and imagine what lies beyond the known history of these relentless servants of Khorne. The long-term impact of the World Eaters on the galaxy is a subject of grim speculation and complex analysis. Their relentless campaigns of slaughter have already left an indelible mark, and their continued existence promises to reshape the universe in ways that few can predict or prepare for. The implications of their actions, both immediate and distant, present challenges that extend far beyond the battlefield. One significant long-term consequence of the World Eaters' presence is the unending destabilization of galactic regions they target. Their unpredictability and sheer ferocity make them a constant threat to any semblance of order. Entire sectors suffer from their raids, creating power vacuums as planets are reduced to ruins and populations are massacred. This destabilization leaves these areas vulnerable to further incursions by other hostile forces, such as rival Chaos warbands, opportunistic Xenos, or Imperial factions seeking to reclaim lost territory. Over time, these regions may devolve into lawless wastelands, where survival becomes the sole priority, further fragmenting the galaxy. For the Imperium, the World Eaters represent a resource-draining menace that diverts attention from other pressing threats. Every warband requires extensive military resources to counter, forcing the Imperium to allocate fleets and armies to regions where the World Eaters operate. This stretches the already strained forces of the Imperium even thinner, leaving other critical areas exposed. Over centuries, this constant pressure could weaken the Imperium's ability to maintain its fragile grip on the galaxy, leading to more widespread rebellion, alien incursions, or even internal collapse. The psychological impact of the World Eaters' actions also carries profound long-term consequences. Their brutality serves as a grim reminder of what happens when humanity succumbs to chaos. Tales of their atrocities spread fear and despair across the galaxy, undermining morale and shaking faith in the Imperium's ability to protect its citizens. This fear is not limited to civilians. Even seasoned soldiers and commanders are affected, as the prospect of facing the World Eaters on the battlefield is a daunting and often demoralizing thought. Over time, this pervasive fear could erode the unity and resolve of Imperial forces, making them more vulnerable to other threats. On a broader scale, the World Eaters contribute to the overall growth of chaos, particularly the power of Khorne. Every life they take and every battle they fight strengthens the Blood God, perpetuating a cycle of destruction that feeds the forces of chaos. As Khorne grows stronger, his influence across the galaxy expands, manifesting in more frequent warp storms, increased demonic incursions, and greater corruption among mortal factions. This escalating influence could tip the balance of power further in favor of chaos, pushing the galaxy closer to total annihilation. For other factions, the World Eaters pose unique challenges and opportunities. Xenospecies, such as the Orcs or Tyranids, might view them as ideal opponents, engaging in battles that align with their own destructive instincts. However, this dynamic often leads to prolonged conflicts that devastate entire regions, leaving little behind for either side to claim. For more calculating factions, such as the Eldar or Tau, the World Eaters serve as a dangerous wild card. Their unpredictability makes them difficult to manipulate or counter, forcing these factions to adapt their strategies to account for the ever-present possibility of a World Eaters incursion. Despite the devastation they bring, some speculate that the World Eaters could inadvertently create opportunities for certain factions. For instance, their actions often destabilize regions controlled by the Imperium, creating openings for Xenos empires or renegade human groups to expand. However, these opportunities are short-lived, as the World Eaters do not discriminate in their targets. Any gains made in their wake are often undone by the very chaos they leave behind, ensuring that no lasting stability can emerge. In the far future, the World Eaters' persistence raises questions about the ultimate trajectory of their existence. Some theorize that their warbands could eventually burn themselves out, consumed by endless conflict and infighting. Without a unified purpose or direction, it is possible that the World Eaters might fragment further, their numbers dwindling as warbands destroy one another or fall to external threats. Alternatively, a catastrophic event or a major shift within the forces of chaos could reignite their cohesion, unleashing them as a more organized and devastating force than ever before. There is also the possibility that the World Eaters' devotion to Khorne could lead to their transformation into something entirely new. As they continue to shed blood and claim skulls, their proximity to the Blood God's power might result in further mutations or ascensions, turning them into demonic entities or avatars of Khorne's will. Such a transformation would mark a new chapter in their history, with even more destructive potential and far-reaching consequences for the galaxy. The significance of the World Eaters extends beyond their immediate actions, serving as a chilling reminder of the dangers posed by chaos and the fragility of the galaxy's balance. Their existence underscores the inherent instability of the universe, where even the most disciplined and loyal forces can be corrupted and turned into instruments of destruction. This lesson resonates deeply across all factions, shaping their perceptions of chaos and influencing their strategies for survival. In the end, the legacy of the World Eaters is one of unending violence and chaos, a force that reshapes the galaxy with every battle they fight. Whether they ultimately bring about their own destruction or persist as a perpetual scourge, their influence will continue to echo through the ages, leaving scars that may never fully heal. The galaxy will forever bear the marks of their relentless slaughter, a testament to the enduring power of rage and the insatiable hunger of Khorne.